Onjali, congratulations, first of all.
Thank you so much. Ah.
Does that feel
How is that
surreal?
even possible? Yeah, it doesn't feel real yet. I think it'll take a few years.
Well, you should be very proud. There was a lot of warmth in the room last night. We were having this chat the day after the night before, but a very popular winner, I think, and that hopefully adds to the joy of the prize.
That's really lovely. I think it's a bittersweet kind of experience because everyone's books are amazing, and the fact that we all reached the shortlist is absolutely just staggering. So you kind of feel like, oh, you want everyone to win, and you feel a bit guilty. But I think everyone's just been so warm and so receptive of the book, and it's just been absolutely amazing. And I'm really thankful for that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the book, The Boy at the Back of the Class.
Yeah.
It's a fabulous book. I wondered if you could tell us a bit about the inception of the book, I suppose, because the work that you do outside of writing, I think has sort of fed into this, and you do all sorts of things. So could you tell us a little bit about what you do?
So the book in particular was inspired by my experiences of going out to the refugee camps with a whole team of amazing volunteers who have kept me going all these years. And we're very sporadic. I don't go often as I want to, but we go out whenever we can. And we've seen, just the most beautiful children, the most beautiful parents really, surviving and laughing and playing jokes on each other and playing with each other amidst the most horrendous kind of circumstances. I've been going out since 2015. I never really thought about writing a book about any of it. It was just, this is something I do in my spare time. And also you don't want to use someone else's experiences as making to your own almost. You want to be authentic. But I fell really ill in 2017, which had me bedbound for about 3.5 months. And all I could think about was the amazing refugees I'd met in the camps who were in pain. We heard women screaming. There were women who were really struggling, children in pain, and they didn't have access to a hospital or a mum who was bringing them a hot water bottle, or a nurse and a doctor to look after them. So that was all I could think about while I was recovering. And suddenly this image of a little boy who walks into a school one day who's a refugee and who survived kind of popped into my head while I was in my hospital bed. And I think that was particularly inspired by a boy who the book is dedicated to, called Rayhan. He's the baby of Calais in my head. And I met him just a few days after he was born. His mum had given birth in the camps. She travelled all the way from Syria, tried to settle in Afghanistan. That town was also bombed, so she was basically on the move to try and get to, I think it was her uncle who was living here somewhere in the UK. And all I could think about was her and how had she travelled over 20,000 miles in this, really fragile, vulnerable state. And the baby's face kept popping up in my head. So Rayhan is, for me, Ahmet, the boy at the back of the class, and I started imagining what it would be like for him to make it to the UK, but without his gorgeous mum, without his family, and what that might be like for him. So that's how it was kind of born. So it's kind of pain and unexpected story kind of popping into my head. It was never really planned.
And in telling Ahmet's story, rather than it being told by him, we see him from the other kid's perspective.
Yeah.
Was that a conscious decision? Why was it that you wanted to tell his story through other children?
Two reasons. Firstly, I didn't want, Ahmed's story, Rayhan's story, only of the children who are refugees isn't my story. I can't tell their story. Yeah. That's their voice, and they need to be able to tell that for themselves. So that was one. I didn't want to kind of impose my voice onto their story. It's not right for me to do that. And secondly, my nieces and nephews, myself, we've been born and brought up here in the UK, and I can very well imagine what it would be like for me as a kid in class to suddenly have a new boy come in who's really strange and pale and doesn't talk, and for me to have all these questions. And whenever I come back from the refugee camps, my nieces and nephews are filled with questions, and this book is kind of an answer to those questions.
I was talking to one of your other shortlisted authors, Tomi Adeyemi, yesterday, and she was talking about how art has the ability to do things to culture and to the society that we live in. And I found that really interesting because you obviously do very, very practical things in helping refugees, but also you are doing something with this book. And I wonder whether you feel, or hope rather, that the book and might actually have as positive an impact as the very practical things that you do for refugees.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That would be the dream. And I'm seeing it come true actually, because I'm having requests from schools, questions about how they can get involved and how they can help. And in my last convoy, I actually had schools sending me packages of like new rucksacks and toothbrushes, and it's from little kids who are just doing this because they want to. So I think kids are really hungry to do something, and it's an age where not only learning, but you want to learn what you can do with those learnings, like how you can transform those into actions. So I'm seeing it really beautifully pan out. And it wasn't ever the intention. It was kind of like I just thought I just want to write a story that might help answer a few questions, and also de-other the other, especially for children, because I think the language that surrounds refugees and the language that they'll be surrounded by in the media, they might hear parents at the playground, whatever it is, it's going to be largely negative. That's what I feel anyway.
Yeah.
And it's okay for them to challenge that, and it's okay for them to feel like this isn't right, or there's some kind of niggling doubt as to whether it is people can speak about another person like that. But to see that actually come into action, absolutely. So it's kind of melding my worlds together, which is really amazing.
It's through children's literature, I think, that we are seeing the change. We are seeing the sort of the literature that helps maybe paint a more positive picture of what the future might be like. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I think all of us who've had the privilege of reading from a young age will have books that have impacted our lives. It's like Lauren Charles said yesterday in her speech. There are books that will change your worldview, and most of those tend to happen when you're a kid. Whether it's reading the Narnia stories and understanding what evacuees might have been going through, or reading Superman, who I point out in schools was a refugee. He's an interplanetary refugee. Or reading just amazing books by Judith Kerr, whatever it is, it can really change your perspective. And I think the next stage after that is whether or not you're going to do something about it once your perspective has been changed. And I think a lot of that gets kicked out of us by the time we're older. So no, you can't do anything about it. You're too small. This problem is too massive. I think there's an awakening now amongst children as well that actually we do have a part to play. And as I said before, that the mess we're creating for our younger generations, whether it's climate change, whether it's the refugee crisis, or other humanitarian debacles, they're going to have to deal with it, and they are ready to deal with it, and they have answers. And I get the most amazing answers when I go into schools, and they ask me questions that I don't have the answer to, but they'll come up with an answer for. So it's like, wow, why are you not in the UN? Why are you not in Parliament? And I hope they will be one day. But they're ready for change, and they're hungry for it, and they get that kind of kick through books. And I think that's a really amazing awakening for the industry to have as well.
I think that the message in your book, and I think particularly the idea of empathy, of being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, is so important. So I think that was part of the reason why last night everybody was very happy to see your book win. But we really hope that obviously that it just means that the book reaches more readers.
That'd be amazing.
So listen, thank you so much for having
a
quick chat with me about the book. It's great to see it win.
Thank you.